I have pleasure inviting Bona to address us. She has proposed. There is not a lot that you can say to someone who has escaped from the jaws of death and who was there in that risky situation for her own beliefs. But the fact is, Bona is here with us, and she will share some ideas and thoughts, and also start off by explaining a bit of how that situation came to be. But she wanted it to be more a question-answer session, and she said something very interesting. She said people who are in distress often go and take recourse to religion for sustenance. And she wanted to share some of her ideas of how her humanism helped us handle the horrible, horrific situation that she found herself in. Bona, it's over to you.
Hi, it's already pretty late, and you guys have been so patient. I was telling Shuzata then that you guys have to be very, very patient. Most probably Bangladeshis wouldn't have sit here for this long listening to everything. Thank you for doing that, and you're still listening. Amazing. Okay, I always thought I speak very loud, but okay, it's pretty late. You have been sitting here for a while, so I'm thinking, I don't want to talk at a stretch. Let me just share my story very briefly, and then I'll try to answer your questions, because I actually worked a long time in the IT world. I'm a marketing exec now, but so I'm very used to this kind of setting. But I really don't know what you are curious to know, so I will actually ask you to ask questions about anything you want to know once I give you a little description of my situation. How many of you actually know what's happening in Bangladesh recently? Okay, so very few. All right, I'll try to be brief. Actually, yesterday I was delivering a speech at American Humanist Association in Chicago. As I was walking up the podium, it hit me that I have paid so enormously for the worldview I have, I guess secular humanism, but it is still non-negotiable. I don't think I can actually trade it with anything. I've been an atheist since the age of 13. I was born in a Muslim family, a very liberal Muslim family in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I went to my dad at the age of 13, actually 12. I said, hey, every religion says they're right. So if I were born Hindu, I would think Hindu religion is the right religion, and I would practice it, and then I would go to Muslim God's hell. Well, how does that explain? Like, how does it make sense to you? So my dad said, well, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you go read the scriptures and see if it makes sense to you? I did for a year, and whatever I understood at the age of 13, I question it now, but I went back to him and said, all of these sound to be fairy tales. And my dad said, is that what you want to believe? Okay, go ahead. And that was the end of the religion education or anything else in my family. But anyway, I don't want to face a camera. Okay. So, Dr. Avijit Roy was my husband, partner in crime, my best friend. We wrote together, we fought together. Actually, we used to fight over philosophical, intellectual things so much that our 10-year-old who understands Bengali to a certain point comes to us one day and goes, oh, these are all philosophical arguments you guys have. All this time I thought you have a bad marriage. So that's how it was. So I didn't only lose my husband, I lost my best friend, lost my partner. We were visiting Bangladesh last year, actually, to be exact, in middle of February 2015, for a book signing event. There is, I don't know if you guys know, there is a 1 month long book fair in Bangladesh to commemorate the International Language Day. I'll come to that a little later. So, and normally book publishers publish a lot of books at that time. Avijit published 2 books last year. We were there for the book signing event. And one day, I think that was the 5th or 6th day we went to the book fair, we were returning to our car, which was not even a quarter mile away. We were walking, thousands of people, well-lit, book fair, 8 o'clock in the evening. We were walking towards our car from the book fair. We were attacked by the Islamic militants from the back. I do not have any memory of the attack. I have seen gruesome pictures. If you just do a search on internet, you will see all kinds of gruesome pictures, me pleading for help. There are like hundreds and hundreds of people. Nobody came to help. In Bangladesh, situation is pretty, it has come to a point when people are scared because the corruption, crime is so bad that if you come to rescue someone, you might be plotted as one of the criminals, and then the police is going to ask for a bribe to let you go. So people are very, very scared. And then a young photographer, 18, 19 years old, came to rescue us, took us to the hospital. The first memory I have is I was in a 3-wheeler auto rickshaw or something, and I had something very, very hard on my lap. I was soaked in blood. I know now that was Avijit's head, and I had 2 unknown guys taking us somewhere, and I'm asking, where are you taking me? Are you gonna kill me? Then we were taken to the hospital. Avijit died there half an hour later. I had 4 head wounds, 4 machete wounds, 6 to 7 inches, and sliced off some. My fingers, most of my fingers don't work because I think I grabbed the machetes with both hands. So I had to go through like hours and hours of surgery to repair the nerves and arteries of the fingers. I was in the ICU for 4 days. And on the 4th day, I was brought into the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota by FBI and U.S. Embassy. My family lives in Minneapolis, my parents, my 2 sisters. So we have been living in Atlanta for the last 16 years. I actually left Bangladesh right after my high school. So I've been here most of my adult life. I met Avijit over the blog, Muktamona, that Babu mentioned. The first free-thinking blogs for free-thinkers, secular humanists in Bengali language in both sides of India and Bangladesh. And in 2001, I met him in 2002. I actually wrote something there, and there were like hundreds of attacks on me on that blog. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the time to respond to this. I went away. An hour later, I see a response from Avijit Rai, like with a lot of reference and all that. So I called my friend up. I said, "Who's this guy? Who the hell is he?" And he goes, "Oh, he's the moderator. He's the founding moderator." I'm like, "How old is he?" So it started from there. So we started dating. We dated long distance from Atlanta to Singapore. We met for the first time on a blind date in Paris in 2002. And yes, a little too perfect. And then Avijit moved here from Singapore. He was doing his PhD in Singapore in biomedical engineering, and he moved to Atlanta in 2006. So that's pretty much the story of our personal story. Now, you might ask now why we were attacked. So Avijit and I both are atheists. We are secular humanists. we write in Bangla. We started writing in Bangla thinking there are a lot of people to write in English here, and but in Bengali to actually write about science and cutting edge scientific discoveries, concepts, basic concepts, philosophy, art, history. We need we need an opening, we need an internet platform to do that. So we started writing. Vijit wrote mainly about science. He has written books on physics, origin of life, science behind homosexuality, which Al-Qaeda always portrays that one of his biggest crimes. Then he actually has written 8 books, edited 2. And his recent books, the 2 books that we went to Bangladesh for, one was How the Universe Came to Be from Zero to the Universe, and also a literary book that's an interaction between Victoria Ocampo, the Argentinian feminist writer, and Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel laureate Bengali poet. So, but the 2 books which actually created the uproar among the Islamic fundamentalists were the Philosophy of Disbelief and Virus of Faith. Those are the 2 books he wrote in, I think one in 2011, another one in 2013. He got some death threats, but we just thought, this is pretty common. These people, these lunatics on internet, they give threats like this, so we don't need to care about that. I wrote a book on evolution of life, along the path of evolution. We have written hundreds and hundreds of blogs in Bengali, some in English. You have to wonder that what Avijit hasn't written about. That was one of the biggest fights in our house with full-time jobs, and then having more than a full-time job, writing almost until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Where is the time for anything else? I still remember all the fights that we used to have about that. It was a pretty delicate balance. So he wrote we stood up against all kinds of discrimination, tortures. We wrote about the fights the Palestinians are having. In Kashmir, what's going on, the discrimination and the tortures Bangladeshi government is doing in the hilly area, in hill tracts, in Chittagong area. He wrote against the Iraq war, the tortures in Abu Ghraib. So, he actually wrote intensively about women's rights. I used to call him that he is actually, he's more feminist than I was in certain cases. He was kind of like a militant feminist. So that was our crime. So that's why we were hacked. That's why we were hacked to death. And after our killing, it did create quite a bit of noise all around the world, being a Bangladeshi-American citizen and also having a presence pretty much internationally. All humanist organizations, human rights organizations came forward. What happened was, interestingly enough, Bangladeshi government stayed completely quiet, sealed. The Prime Minister, Avijit's dad, was actually the professor of physics in Dhaka University. He taught our Prime Minister's husband. Our Prime Minister's husband was his student. So the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, called him, Dr. Ajoy Roy, and expressed her sympathy and kept it secret so that press cannot know. It got leaked a few days later. Then the Islamic fundamentalists, the terrorists, vowed to kill one atheist blogger a month. And they actually kept their word. They killed another blogger. Then they killed Ananta Bijoy Das, who was also a fellow blogger. He started writing with us in Muktamona. He was much younger. He used to call me Didi. Then after the 4th killing in June or July, these guys, because, it's the culture of impunity. If the government is staying quiet because they don't want to say anything, in case they kind of like, they didn't want to make the Islamic fundamentalists angry. This is a political thing. This is for the sake of votes. After the fourth killing, when these people actually dared walk into the 6th floor of the apartment and killed this guy, knocked on the door, walked in, put his wife and sister-in-law in a room, stabbed this blogger to death in his own apartment. That was last year, back in June. So then the Prime Minister was kind of forced to talk about it. She comes out, the Home Minister comes out, the head of police comes out. Their first statement was, we condemn these murders, we don't support this, but, there is always a but these people should be careful enough what they write about. We do not support hurting religion. Any kind of writing which actually causes to hurt the religion, any religion, we will not support that. So pretty much they are saying, and there is no definition of hurting religion. What is hurting religion? You cannot actually put a definition for that. So they pretty much said that they are going to arrest people under a semi-blasphemy law. It's a very old British law. I don't know if you guys also have the same law. It's called ICT Act 57 in our country, and they revamped that. You would think the world is progressing. If you look at some of the things that happen in our countries, you would actually question that. In 2006, when we had more conservative government in power, they revamped the ICT Act and said if anybody hurts religious feelings, then you would be sentenced for 10 years. Then this government, which is supposed to be a secular government in Bangladesh, came to power. They actually made that 10 years 14 years, couple of years ago. They have arrested bloggers for hurting religious sentiment. They are systematically actually arresting people, closing down publishing publishing houses. They are arresting the publishers. Anyway, so that was happening in October. The Islamic terrorists walked into the offices of the two publishers, Avijit's book publishers, and hacked one to death. The other one nearly survived because he had two other writers in his office who fought for him as well, and all three got injured. So that's the situation in Bangladesh. The culture of impunity has gone to a level now that these Islamic fundamentalists are not only killing atheist bloggers or humanists, they are systematically killing progressive professors, homosexuals, Hindu minority priests, Buddhist monks, anybody who actually do not subscribe. Shiite, they have attacked Shiite mandirs, like Shiite temples. Whoever does not subscribe to their values, to their Islamic Wahhabi values, they are attacking and killing. In the month of April this year, last month? No, the month before, they killed, no, this is May. This is still May. Last month, they killed 6 people. 2 of them were gay rights activists who actually published the first gay magazine. They walked into his apartment, pretty secure apartment. 3 or 5 guys walked into that apartment, hacked these 2 people in front of a 90-year-old mother. So because they are they used to work for the U.S. Embassy, there has been a lot of noise about this. But interestingly enough, the U.S. ambassador came to CNN and praised Sheikh Hasina for fighting religious sentiments. So, this marriage between politics and religion has been there for ever. As long as we can go back in written history, we will see that religion has been used against people, and politics has always used it as a weapon. And that is actually pretty much the situation in Bangladesh right now. Actually, This month, another drama is happening. A Hindu principal of high school got framed by the political mafia group in a suburb in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, and it said he actually insulted Islam. He actually said something. His name is, I think, Shanti Kumar or something. Kanti Kumar. He insulted a guy saying that your religion is bad or something like that. What he says he has never said. So the political mafia, the MP comes, made him, you know, when you hold your ear and sit down thing, I don't know how to say it in English. So they made the principal do that in front of everybody. And then the Islamic fundamentalist group, the party, actually came in and protested against his stance, and they are saying they will kill him. So government has actually given him protection, but we will still have to see what they do to the MP for doing that, because his life is in danger. He has 3 daughters who are in danger right now. There has been a systematic expulsion of Hindu minority groups from Bangladesh. We had 30% Hindus in Bangladesh. It's down to 9 or 10% right now. It's a pretty tough situation if you're a minority, if you are progressive, if you are gay, if you are, a progressive professor at school, at university, you are in danger in Bangladesh. Bangladeshi government keeps that there is no instance of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or international Islamic groups in Bangladesh, but Indian subcontinent Al-Qaeda has claimed responsibility for our case, for many other cases. ISIS has claimed responsibility, and ISIS's magazine Dabik has been featuring Bangladesh. But because think about it, it's a poor country with 90% Muslim population. Millions of kids were taught in madrasas. Rather than providing secular education, our government decided to, it's not all government-built madrasas, but there was an infusion of Saudi money. Millions and millions of dollars of Saudi money flew into these countries to establish madrasas. These people do not get any secular education. These people do not learn about anything else other than the Quran. And when they come out, they face this hard condition of unemployment and non-acceptance to the society. So it's a very good ground for, if I worked for ISIS or Al-Qaeda, I would have recruited from here, right? Think about the marketing strategy there. So though the government, for whatever the reason, for international, sentiments and other things, they are saying they're very close to your government, though. They're very good friends with Modi. Sheikh Hasina and Modi get along very well. So it's a pretty interesting situation in Bangladesh. Interestingly enough, Bangladesh did not start this way. It had a secular constitution. In 1971, when we got liberated, after a 9 months long war. You guys most probably know in 1947, when we got divided up, the Indian subcontinent was divided up. It was divided up based on religion. And we have seen that in many other places, the way they drew the lines to create these new nation states. They didn't realize that religion cannot actually just keep 2 nations, geographically and culturally apart nations, together. The book fair that I was mentioning in 1952, when the Pakistani government came and said, hey, look, Bangla cannot be the state language, though we were the majority, Pakistanis were minority, Urdu speaking people were minority. We actually went to the street again, died, they killed many people. 21st February is marked as the International Mother's Language Day from UN because of that. And that's why we have this month-long book fair. Then for political economic reasons, there was a lot of tension. In 1971, we had the 9 months war. We were liberated in December 1971. Started with a secular constitution. We had democracy, nationalism, socialism, and secularism in our constitution, though none of those were really implemented. But slowly, we have seen this, this continuous infusion of Islamic values in Bangladeshi society, Bangladeshi culture, in political arena. The war criminals were actually the Islamic Party, who were reinstituted back with the Saudi support, with the US support. We have also seen how Al-Qaeda was created, pretty much. Bin Laden was created by the US because of the Cold War situation. So, this is nothing new. The infusion of Saudi money, the oil money, the Middle Eastern money, the keeping Bangladesh to the US side, taking it out from the Russian and Indian bloc. So all these political things that we have seen in last 30, 40, 50 years, I really think that this is not just religion. To me, I'm a very political person. I actually see the world from political and economic side. I think they are very related. This is a very complex situation. What we are seeing today in all over the world, the way the world is blowing up right now, I think the decisions we have made in last since the Second World War, First World War, when we started drawing these boundaries for these nation states, the reason we did that, for strategic reasons, for the global resources, then oil. In 1930s, there goes, everything goes out of the window as soon as oil was found. So I really think, as humanists, it's very, very important for us right now to be very aware of what's happening, understand the world, not only from religious perspective or non-religious perspective, understand the world from political and economic perspective, that what political and economic interests can do to the nations. And it's more important right now to talk about secular humanism and come forward, take actions than ever before, because the world is going through a very rapid change. This is the first time in, I guess, in our written history when we are talking about emancipating half of the population, women. I don't know if actually women ever had the equal rights, though there are some, some incidents of ancient cultures where there were matriarchal societies. We are talking about equal rights for gays, lesbians. We are asking for equal rights regardless of sex, gender, political, religious alignment. So, to understand that, to see that world from that perspective, where actually equality is the basic concept of living, you have to see the world from a scientific and rationalist point of view. There is no other choice. So to me, humanism means, secular humanism means questioning everything and anything. I don't have anything as sacred that I cannot question. Not my parents. They are actually very, what can I say, not upset, but I question them to death. So, and also asking, end all discrimination, asking for equal rights for everybody, and also care about the world. This is the first time we have some questions about, climate change, global warming, and looking at the American society where a big portion of it do not believe in evolution. I think I was in a conference, I was in a meeting yesterday where they showed actually 60%, I think more than 60% of Americans do not believe in evolution. They do not think actually that climate change is a problem. Global warming is a problem. So to understand the world from the natural, rational, scientific perspective, having that worldview, I think in 21st century, standing here, this is the only worldview right now that we need to have to save humanity, to save our societies, to come out of discriminations, to actually save our surroundings, our environment, our climate, our world around us. I do not see any other alternative to this. Sorry, I talked longer than I thought.
Bonya, I have a question. There are many here who have tears in their eyes. How could you keep that smile in that traumatized face while you are talking?
Good question. I didn't cry for first 3 months when I was in the Mayo Clinic in the ICU. Went through pretty intense treatment. A psychiatrist walked in on the 4th or 5th day. Pretty hard-ass psychiatrist. He treats PTSD for the veterans, for the Army. He walks in, he sits down, he goes, first, before that there was a Christian Catholic priest walked in, and he looked at me. I was like, do you know my story? And I was pretty delusional. I was taking 19 medications, I was having surgeries, it was the 5th day. And I'm like, really? Your hospital dared send you here knowing my story? You guys get offended all the time. Do you understand that we get offended sometimes too? How can you walk in here telling me that I need to take refuge under religion now? He walked away, gave me a good smile and walked away. Then my shrink walks in, and Dr. Bobo, and I go, I don't really believe in shrinks. I never needed one. He goes, okay, I don't need to treat you. Can I please sit down and just talk to you, have a chat with you? I said, okay. Hour and a half later, I said, when can I see you next? He is an awesome psychiatrist, and I didn't cry for 3 months. My parents were worried, my sisters were worried, my friends were worried. He said, it's fine. I have seen your kind before. Everybody does not cry. He said I could actually go away without antidepressants. I have never taken antidepressants. I'm on PTSD watch. I can fall over anytime. But I think it's my worldview. I wrote about this in Bangla. This is how I saw it. I sat there, I thought, okay, the world is pretty indifferent to my existence. Doesn't matter. I'm one of 7 billion. There are millions and millions or billions of creatures in this world. I'm just one of them. And I can spend the rest of my time on this planet while I'm raising my footprint, crying, sobbing, staying in the dark closet. That's my favorite place when I'm sad. And Avijit used to say, don't be a girl, whenever I walked into that closet and cried. So, or I can do something meaningful for myself and for my surroundings. I can be sad. I can be perpetually sad. But that sadness is going to be just mine. Nobody can actually share that with me. My parents will be sad, but I cannot share it with anybody. I am sad, but I think, what's the point? This is such an indifferent universe. We are here for random chance. We were not here with any purpose. What gives me the strength? I sat there, did a calculation on probability. I thought, okay, look at the Yazidi sex slaves who were taken as slaves by ISIS. Look at the teenage girls Boko Haram took in. Look at the trafficked women in India, in Bangladesh, in Nepal. I still think I'm more privileged. I have platforms to talk about internationally, nationally. I have a darn good job to pay my bills. I have a loving family. I think I am privileged, and and getting this privilege by randomness is pretty good. So, that's what keeps me going. Because if the universe has no meaning, no purpose, we have to create a purpose for ourselves. We have to create a meaning around ourselves. So I think that's what I want to do. Thank you. Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah. A moving story indeed. A brave human being standing up for the oppression of the state, and religion. I'm sorry. You know, you're a role model. Absolutely. So my question to you is, Bonya, do you, I know you mentioned few of these killings by Islamic fundamentalists in Bangladesh. Around the same time, in India, we had 3 murders of racialists in India. Sure. So do you see any parallels in the supposedly secular states, India and Bangladesh, and how these governments are handling, and how the societies and the major religions in these 2 countries are handling this situation? Thank you.
Yes, I do. You know, the extent, the intensity could be different, but I do. And I also do see another thing. I think it's not only Bangladesh, it's not only India. The world is seeing, as a whole, is seeing a transformation. And again, going back to what I was saying, I think this is the aftermath of the many decisions we have made, politically, culturally, economically, religiously, we have made over the years that is actually blowing up right now. We are seeing a rise of religious fundamentalism all over the world. If you actually notice what's happening here in America as well, Trump could be our president very soon. So, I don't know which one is better though. So, yeah, we are going through a transition right now. Middle East is blowing up. Bangladesh, I don't know where we were going to end up. I hope that we revert back. We actually go back to our secular standings. I don't know if we can anymore. These are pretty deep, complex political and economic games going on with the availability of Islamism. It's very easy just to say, oh, hey, look, the problem is religion. And you know, if Islam changes, everything changes. It's not as easy as that. We have to understand historically what has happened and also economically the global economic policies we have taken for global consumerism, for capitalism, for all that. We need to actually understand that why we came here, how we came here. Actually, that's another reason I actually took a leave from my job, moved from Atlanta to UT Austin to do some research work with them on the rise of Islamism. So let's see where I get, like in a year or so.